This edition of My Thoughts Monday is brought to you by Valve Performance, the team behind the Nordboard, ForceDex, the Groin Bar, and Human Track. Guys, the most important ability for all of our athletes is availability, and that's the absolute goal of Valve Performance, is to provide solutions to performance professionals so that we can get the right information to make the right decision at the right time for the betterment of the athletes that we get to work with. To do this, guys, they have a wide range of validated products that focus on usability, and having being founded by the School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences at the Queensland University of Technology, they're extremely evidence-based and they're beyond transparent. I can tell you that our time using the Nordboard and being involved with ForceDex, we have been introduced to so many amazing people that have truly helped us become better coaches, have a better understanding, not just of the technology, but also what we're doing with our athletes. So make sure you hop over to valveperformance.com today to make sure you check out what they got. It's going to make you better and to do better by your athletes. The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some awesome practitioners who are always trying to evolve and continue to grow professionally throughout their career. The problem with many of us, though, is finding a new outlet, a new way, and a new perspective on the questions that we may have, whether it be programming, whether it be situational with dealing with coaches, or whether it be career advice. Because all too often what happens is we get stuck in with the same group of friends and the same group of colleagues that we reach out to for advice repeatedly over and over again. But what we should really be looking for is different perspectives, different people who have been through different situations who can help us make better decisions both for ourselves and our athletes. And one awesome place to start with that is the forums in the Strength Coach Network. In the forums in the Strength Coach Network, you'll be able to reach out and get feedback, input, and advice from coaches from all over the world, from everything from career advice to training modalities to programming. There's people there just for the same reason as you are, to try to get better, to learn, to share information, and to grow the field of strength and conditioning. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS. That's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS to dive into all that great content today and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Jay DeMayo coming at you with this week's edition of My Thoughts Monday. Today, guys, I kind of want to run down a different little rabbit hole here, and it's based off of kind of two conversations. One of the presentations from the 2019 seminar, and the conversation I had with my director lately, and it really made me think. And I think that it's something that we all need to be a little bit better at. I think that when we look at the field of strength and conditioning or sport performance, and I think that a lot of this, especially for the people that listen to this show or are involved in the seminar, when they heard Dr. Weingroff discuss, the new questions, or the new line, I believe he called it, and that is to ask the questions you didn't know you had to find the solutions you didn't know you needed. And that's super powerful, right? And that's 100% what I think that a lot of the people that listen to these shows and a lot of people that show up at the seminar really kind of embody in being this, in the way that they're practitioners that are always trying to improve themselves and look for better ways and try to ask better questions to get better answers, to learn more, and to be better for the athletes that we get to work with on a daily basis. Well, I talk about that to talk about this, because I think that is needed, it's important, it's sensational, and it's, again, I think where a lot of us find ourselves. But with that being said, I think that there also needs to be things taken care of under your feet before you start trying to dive into these other things. And, there are multiple situations that we go through throughout the day or throughout the week or throughout our career that, get in the way or impact what the primary goal is, right? And that is, the betterment of the student or the betterment of the athletes that you get to work with, and their improvement and, obviously winning games. And some things people aren't going to always agree on, but I think that for the most part, what we want to look at is we want to be able to make sure that the things under our feet are put together and sorted right before we start running all over the place and trying to pull out these other things. And what my director said is that, in a conversation, this is something that needs to be addressed. And I think that word addressed doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen as much anymore. I think that that's something that, like, we look at things and we immediately look for solutions. We don't sit and evaluate the situation. We don't sit and peel back each layer of the onion. I think all too often we run to a lot of different things, and typically those are big ticket technology items, or they are new ways of tracking or monitoring, or they are new exercises or methods, or pieces of equipment that are hot and sexy at the present moment that we feel like are going to fix all these problems, instead of taking a step back and actually talking about what's going on, looking at what's going on, breaking down what's going on, and finding the best possible solution. Because there's so many things that are multifactorial, right, to this. Like, let's say, for example, you have a team that in their non-competitive season does great work in the weight room. A vast majority, if not all, the athletes get stronger, sets lifetime bests, their sprint times improve, all their evaluations get better, their conditioning or fitness or energy system testing, whatever we want to call it, improves, and then they come out for the season, and this has happened for multiple non-competitive seasons. Then they come back and kids get hurt. The knee-jerk reaction for some people is to go all the way in and say, well, we've got to track practice because they're fatigued, and we've got to make sure that we're not doing too much, and we're doing this, that, and the other thing. But what if we take a step back and we look at compliance when they're at home? Is there anything to that? What do we look at when we're talking about, when these things happened in practice? Is it during extra time, when they might have been tired? Are these injuries occurring during times of high academic stress? We know that can be an issue. Are these injuries occurring, if it's a female sport, around the time where their period starts? Because, there is some research out there now saying that there is a greater risk of injury there. Are we looking at footwear? Is it, are these kids that all seem to be wearing the same type of shoe? Or is it certain areas of the field that the injury is occurring at? There's a lot of things and a lot of low-hanging fruit that's already there that we can get to, that we can talk about, that we can address before we start diving into these huge, big-ticket items. Now, I'm not saying that tracking practice or readiness or any sort of monitoring is a bad idea, obviously, right? Like, I've been involved in it and, looking at those things for a hot second, so of course I see the value in that. But as someone who has put together a program before we really knew what we were addressing with the technology, I can also tell you that if you don't know what the questions are you're asking when you start to implement these things, that you're going to be putting yourself in a situation where there's going to be trying times. At least from my experience, that there's going to be situations where there's going to be challenges, because if you don't know what you're trying to control for, how are you now going to be able to ask these extraneous questions to find the questions you don't have to get the solutions you didn't know you needed? Because at the end of the day, you've got to know where you're going first, right? You have to have the questions that you need if you're going to find out the questions that you don't need. And that starts with addressing situations that are right under your feet, keeping your house clean and figuring out what you can do better in order to move forward, in order to make sure that you are doing everything that you possibly can for these athletes, to make sure that whatever is going on extraneously to what you're doing is working together with what you're doing with the training for your athletes. Maybe this is a simple conversation with a coach. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? How are you doing it? What's the goal to it? And then sitting there and listening and being like, okay, well, this is why we're doing this stuff in the weight room, and these either will work together or work against each other. So we need to kind of pick and choose. Or it's something like, or teaching them, right? Like if they're talking about we want to do things to work on power, but they're doing stuff for minutes on end, well, of course that's not going to be what they want, right? It's just simple physiology and things that we know. So this is a good time for us to teach. But at the end of it, yes, we need to think outside the box. Yes, we need to drive to be better, to find better questions we didn't know, to find better solutions and solutions we didn't know we needed. But if you don't fix the ones that are right in front of you, and you don't use the easiest ways to figure out what things are, how do you know that those are actually going to be the questions that you're going to need to answer? And you're not just going to run yourself down a rabbit hole. It's going to get you in trouble later. So, yeah, man, dig, figure it out, try to find better ways, but address what's right in front of you before you start trying to get outside the box. Because chances are there's plenty of stuff in that box that you need to clean up and answer before you start trying to look outside of it. As always, guys, truly appreciate everything you do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We'll be back next week with another My Thoughts Monday. I'll see you then.